This video is not for kids. Go do your homework. Well, howdy. How would you like a free preview of my Patreon this week as an apology for my really sporadic YouTube publishing schedule this year? I've been working on a lot of really awesome stuff behind the scenes, so it is taking me a bit to get new videos published, but I promise really awesome things are on the way. But today is a fully unedited, uncensored version of what I do about once a month on Patreon, which is scroll through eBay and look at American Girl doll listings. You know, a lot of times they're the really boogery and overpriced ones, but we just have a good old-fashioned roast, and in the process learn a lot of stuff about the earliest, like 1980s Pleasant Company dolls. And this is your fair warning that there is tons of uncensored cussing in today's video, like F-bombs and everything, so just keep that in mind if you have your children around. But with that said, I hope you enjoy today's roast. See you on the computer. Hello, fellow doll rats. Welcome back to everybody's favorite time of the month, where we go through eBay listings and roast the absolute shit out of them. So I, as always, am going to be flying blind today. I have still been looking at eBay pretty much every single day, all day, since, 2021? It's been 4 years. So I am so well versed in eBay at this point. Like, I feel like Professor Know-It-All with all of this. I was just like sitting down and doing a college lecture or something. Hopefully it's a little bit more fun than that. I honestly didn't love college all that much. I skipped a lot of class and got iced coffees with my friend, and yeah, a lot of partying, not much studying. So anyway, yeah, we're just going to cruise eBay today. I'm not going in with a specific theme this week. There is a small chance that this channel might end up on YouTube. God help everybody in the public doll sphere. But I just thought it would be fun to go through some listings and see what's been cooking on eBay. I have gotten so many holy grails this year. It's kind of insane. So I don't know. And that might just be a symptom of me being on eBay like way too much. But yeah, I got some really cool stuff that we'll probably unbox on the Patreon maybe next week. I got a lot of like very true first edition mint condition Kirsten items that I am so excited about. One of them being an item that I've been looking for almost 4 years. So it's really exciting. But today we're just going to look at listings and window shop. And I think let's just look at white body American Girl dolls. I always feel like that's the most, let's see, white body American Girl dolls. I can never type and talk at the same time. So anyway, yeah, I think this is always the most like exciting thing to talk about because there's so many little idiosyncrasies amongst different dolls, like, certainly like the 1986 through like 1990 dolls. There are so many changes in them, and it's fun to learn to know what to look out for, because every once in a while you might find a really good deal, and who doesn't love a good deal? I know I do. That's how I built my entire doll collection. I probably have the reputation for being the absolute cheapest person in the entire community. So, I'm always getting on and bragging about like what good of a deal I got on stuff. I'm like, oh, look at this doll that's worth like $3,000 I got for $4. I mean, just kidding. It hasn't happened. But I think let's just go in and type white body American Girl dolls and sort by price highest to lowest. So we can see like what's out there right now. And again, I'm probably going to do an intro for YouTube. If this ends up landing on YouTube, we'll do a YouTube specific one. So maybe you've heard this already, but I have to iterate this, and you'll probably hear me say this another 15 times today. This is not to discredit or say that anybody that's selling anything is lying or has malicious intentions with this. I say this every week. This is A, for fun, and B, for education. And you have to remember that people that are selling things online are getting information from everywhere. Some people go on Facebook groups and get some pretty good information, and others read a BuzzFeed article and think a 1997 Samantha with her arm cut off is worth $17,000. So most of this is somewhere in between. And so I just, again, have to preface this, that this is not to say that anybody is intentionally lying or misrepresenting the things that they have. There are so many little fibberoonies that happen, especially as dolls get passed around these collector communities, people forget, or, conveniently forget details about certain dolls they're selling. I can't tell you how many times I've seen dolls get listed for sale where I'm like, I'm pretty sure that doll you bought like 2 years ago, and I remember it's like silver eye was repainted and you didn't disclose that. So, sometimes people just forget and sometimes people intentionally forget. But I think today, let's assume that if there's anything wrong about these listings, it is not any ill intent on behalf of the seller. It's just misinformation that they've been given, or, I could be wrong too, but let's be real. I'm very rarely wrong with this stuff because I'm an absolute freak and do nothing but obsess over 1980s Pleasant Company. But yeah, so all of that said, for the last time, at least for now, this is not to talk poorly of the people. We are talking specifically about the items in the listing and what, in my personal professional opinion, is or isn't true, or like what's worth what. So let's just start with number one, and the most expensive white body doll listed on eBay right now. So we have a signed white body American Girl doll, and it's gonna it's bugging me to sign in. I do this on a private browser, obviously, because if you saw like my actual eBay account, that would, it's insane. So we're private browsing today. So we have here what is very clearly a gorgeous Samantha doll. She's listed as 1986 in the title, and that's really something that, is very rarely true. I think a lot of people just see the tag in the dresses on these dolls, and just about every single American Girl doll that was made between 1986 and about 1993 is going to have a 1986 copyright on her meat outfit. So many people list American Girl dolls thinking they're like the first year because of the copyright, and that's obviously not true. So we don't have much of a description in here. So that's typically one thing you would expect if a doll's being sold for $6,000. You would expect a very long listing, but at the same time, sometimes short and sweet. If you're going to be spending $6,000 on American Girl dolls, like, let's be real, you probably know your shit by now. So, but you'd be surprised. Sometimes there are some newbies that really want to spend some money and kind of jump into their collection really quickly. So this is, I guess, oh, wow. This is somebody I think this might be an original owner of this doll. It's very interesting. So Marianne Goods was doing a doll signing in the 90s, apparently. And this is such a special doll for this person. I can see why you'd be like, I'm not selling this for $1,000. If I don't get $6,000, I'm keeping it. So it has a really special story, obviously. We'll look at her a little bit closely. So clearly this doll has signatures on it. Let's have a look. So this is a beautiful, what looks to be a let's see if she's dated. And we can cheat. Yeah, 1992. Okay, so this doll was signed well after she was made. This doll looks to me to be, she kind of has the look of an 87. In all reality, this is probably a 19. I would say this is likely an early 1988 Samantha based on a few of the features. We probably won't go into super deep detail about all of that stuff. There's a lot of videos already on Patreon talking about like the real fine details of what makes what. We'll touch on a little bit today, but if you're on the Patreon, you can go back and watch some older videos to really get a good education about a white body Samantha. There's, I think we have a specific video that's like an hour long talking about literally everything there is to know. So gorgeous Samantha, likely 1987, like late 87, 88. Really beautiful. Okay, so we have the original owner's name is Sarah, and this doll was signed on September 4th, 1992 by Marianne Goods, who was one of the family members that was part of the Goods empire that was around, I think, since the 50s. They were like some of the biggest German doll manufacturers, and that was the family that owned Goods that made the earliest Pleasant Company dolls. They made them basically through the mid-90s. So having a Goods signature on an American Girl doll is a very rare find, and they're very fun. Like, I don't have one. I would like to get one day, but it's just not high on my list, obviously. So I think this is a really cool doll. It is always unfortunate when a name is like personalized, because honestly, I feel like even if your name is actually Sarah, it still feels kind of empty. It's like, well, it's still not me. Like, I'm Sarah, but I'm not the Sarah from September of 1992 who got to meet Marianne Goods. So yeah, that's always something that will devalue a signed doll almost every single time, with the very odd exception having a name personalized, like saying like to Sarah or like whoever's name is on there. Maybe your name is Megazord and it says to Megazord. But this is always something that's going to devalue a doll, in my personal opinion. I will say again, this seller can sell this doll for whatever she wants to, and I think especially considering that it's a very nostalgic, sentimental doll to her, she's allowed to say, I want $6,000 and I won't take any less than that for it. But I will say again, because this is probably going on YouTube, I'm not going to say what I think the doll is actually worth, but it's not quite $6,000. So yeah, in my personal opinion, this doll is overpriced, and that's probably why she's been sitting a while. There are 46 people watching her, but most likely that's 46 people waiting to see if that price comes down quite significantly. But yeah, certainly very overpriced. A gorgeous doll, and I know it means a lot to the owner of this doll because it sounds like she was the original owner. So I hope the owner's doing okay. I know a lot of times, sometimes people sell things out of duress, and that can honestly kind of make buying something, it can add a little bit of guilt of something. And I've done that a couple of times, and I just always have to tell myself that these dolls come into our lives for a reason. And sometimes well, I mean, I guess every single doll is only with us temporarily. I guess we all die in the end. So, they're only with us for a certain amount of time. And sometimes they bring so much magic into our life that they can help us out of a really tough situation. And so, maybe that's what this doll is doing for the owner. Hopefully everything's all right. But yeah, every once in a while I've bought something from someone that needed a vet bill paid, and that's just what you have to do sometimes. And anybody that's going to spend this amount of money on a doll is going to absolutely treasure her. So yeah, gorgeous doll, really interesting signature, overpriced unfortunately, but like I said, that's the seller's prerogative, as is all the seller's prerogatives that we are going to look at today. Here we have a listing that I think might be possibly a victim of the BuzzFeed misinformation, where I don't even know what the article is, but during COVID, I think that there were some articles getting written on sites like BuzzFeed where they're like, hey, did you know your American Girl doll's worth $5,000? And they didn't do their research, and it just was very annoying. So yeah, here we go. We have what's very clearly going to be at a bare minimum a 1988 Samantha based on the box style. So right off the bat, I can tell you, unless there's a signed doll hidden in here somewhere, like definitely like priced on the way higher side. This one, I'll be, again, chances are if they think this doll is worth $4,000, they're not watching this video. And again, I don't want to be mean, but this doll realistically is probably, let's see, to look at her, she's probably like a 1988 or 1989. We've got the early version of her birthday, like her lemonade set, like basically her entire birthday collection, which is pretty cool. So, we've got a bear that's worth about $50, table and chairs worth about $100. The party treats, maybe 75. So we got a couple $100, maybe that or a little bit more in the accessories. And, I got to say, like this doll, like this whole thing is maybe worth $500. I know it's very interesting to have the boxes. I know that, but these aren't the original boxes from 1986. So this Samantha, while is a very pretty Samantha, and I'm sure would be great in somebody's collection, she just is not worth $4,000, unfortunately. I would say if the seller could come down to $500, she might be able to get all this sold. Now the trunk is worth a little bit of money too. Maybe she could get $750 for this, but I wouldn't advise you to pay that much. Honestly, that is a little bit high. And prices on this stuff are coming down. Collectors are really starting to find all of the things that they're looking for in their collections, and I've seen a lot of things come down in price, with a few exceptions, including the Holy Grails that I just bought like 2 days ago. I spent more than market value on something just because I've been looking for almost 4 years, and I thought, you know what, I don't want to spend another 4 years looking for this. So sometimes you can charge somebody too much money for something and get away with it. But unfortunately, not a late 80s Samantha with some stuff in dented boxes. I really think all of this stuff, I would encourage the person buying this to try and get it for $500, but don't even bother trying to send an offer of $500 on this. The seller will continue to be convinced that this thing is worth no less than $3,000. So yeah, this doll's probably going to sit on eBay for a little while, which is sad. But like I said, sometimes people have a childhood doll that they don't have to sell, and they just might consider selling it because if they can get $4,000 for it, great, they'll take it, but they're not willing to part with it for $500. And you'll see that quite a bit, actually. So it's always something to keep in mind. Just because something is listed very high does not mean that it is worth what they're listing it for. And just because they think they know what they're talking about, they don't always. We see that very often in these very high price listings. So we are on our third Samantha now, and let's have a look. I can tell from her face she's definitely a white body. In fact, she looks like she might have faded eyes. Collectors will call these slate eyes, but they're basically just regular Samantha eyes that have been exposed to too much UV light and they fade over time. And not every Samantha's eyes are going to fade over time, but there's a specific batch of them in like the late 80s and early 90s that are really susceptible to UV damage. So you can find some really interesting looking Samanthas. And sometimes people will pay more for a slate-eyed Samantha just because they have those really bright eyes and they are pretty and unique looking. But just know that it's not a special eye type that you're getting when you buy a quote-unquote slate Samantha. Again, that's a collector coin term, but if you see somebody selling a slate Samantha, just know that she doesn't have like a very specific eye color that was designed by Pleasant Company. It's just basically a manufacturing defect, but really cool nonetheless. I mean, I'm aware that there are Beanie Babies with manufacturing errors that at least at one point were worth like the mortgage on a house, but so it's just what people are willing to pay for things is what they're worth. So this is a really beautiful Samantha. I can tell that she's probably, I'm going to say this is a 1987 Samantha, interestingly, which makes me think she probably doesn't have the slate eyes, but she looks a little bit more 80s in the face, I have to say, or like 1988 in the face, I have to say. But based on what I can see in here, I think she is a 1987 based on the shape of this wig cap and her neck stamp. Very interestingly, we have Sombrita, which is Josefina's goat in here. It's actually one of my favorite pieces from Josefina's collection. Very odd to be placed with a white body Samantha, but I have seen way crazier things. Another interesting thing to look for is just like the outfits that people put on their dolls, or I guess the outfit that the doll is in. Sometimes you can spot something that has been pieced together just because you might see, a pair of shoes that was manufactured in the 90s, for instance, and they're on like an 80s Samantha, and that always kind of has me making sure that I'm looking at every single detail of the listing, because you don't know what's been added from later eras or later years. So this Samantha here, I can see just barely. In that picture, it almost looks like, I think this is the later version of the shoes. And again, that doesn't really mean anything bad, but like, the original version of Samantha's, what are these called? High button shoes? I can't remember, but the first version of Samantha's midi outfit had shoes with these big, like round wooden discs for heels. They're very awkward looking. So they ultimately ended up taking them off in later versions, but and again, it's not unlikely that, this person could have just bought this outfit for this doll way later, but sometimes that can be a clue to the age of a doll. If the outfit is like from, like the mid 90s, then it's likely that the doll is a little bit later, because it's rare that a collector or like a child would have gotten a doll in 1986, when they were like 9, and then gotten a midi outfit for Samantha when they were 19. So again, not impossible, but it's just less likely. And also seeing Sombrita here makes me think like, okay, don't assume that anything with this doll is original to this doll's era, because Sombrita was released, I believe it was either 97 or 98, I've forgotten, as part of Josefina's birthday collection. So very late 90s. So again, to look here, white bodied. They haven't even shown the doll's torso, which can also be very frustrating. Obviously, that's one thing to also note, that if you're a seller, if you're thinking of selling something for thousands of dollars, they're wanting $4,000 for this doll, which is like way, way, way too high. Add pictures. I get that not everybody is like Cindy Sherman, but it doesn't have to be artful photography, but it's really important to show all of the details of a doll if you want this much money for it. I think that a lot of people get very annoyed by people coming in and asking for really, really high, insane prices and not taking good photos of a doll. So that's something, that's advice I would have for this seller, and anybody else that might be considering selling something for multiple thousands of dollars. take good photos. Make sure that people can see what they're buying. Again, this is I know that this is a white body doll just based on what I can see here, but the average person wouldn't know that. And again, this doll is listed as first edition, which is not true. So most people, myself included, would consider a first edition Samantha to be from 1986. So she would have small, what we call chipped teeth, and often they have amber eyes, but not always. But there's certain qualities that a first edition Samantha would have from 1986 that would make her a first edition. And this doll, like I said, is probably like a 1987 or early 1988, most likely. So yeah, this doll I would say is probably worth maybe $200, maybe, and that's including the outfit and sombrita. So again, just something to be really, really mindful of is you might think that this doll is worth thousands of dollars if you're a new collector, but you know, like I said, just because somebody's asking almost $4,000 for something does not mean that it's not worth $50. So yeah, this whole listing, I would say, is worth like $200 max, maybe. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Oh, and as I'm sitting here clicking what is likely another absolutely bonkers listing, don't waste your time emailing sellers to tell them their doll that they have listed for $3,000 is worth $75. They're not going to hear it. Everybody thinks everybody's out to get them. And, you know, and I don't know people's personal financial situations either. And, you know, some people can't, you know, they're just trying to get as much money as they can to scrape by to pay medical bills or buy food or whatever. So, you know, I try not to be overly judgmental of people that are asking just like stupid prices, like $3,000 for what is clearly like 2000 Samantha. So, while trying not to be critical of them, it can be frustrating as collectors to see people on the outside coming in and just trying to make that bag really quick and disappearing. But just know that you're not going to be like convincing them of anything by messaging the seller and telling them, hey, this doll is from like, and again, girl, could you not at least rotate the pictures? Like I am hurting, my neck is hurting right now trying to look at this doll. Not an ugly doll. She's a very beautiful Samantha. She's worth maybe $100, maybe $100 if you can find somebody to buy her. But again, very frustrating to have listings like this kind of clogging up the doll sphere that we're all like, you know, weeding through trying to find treasures. Yeah, I know this stuff is annoying. And again, this is Samantha from, I think, like Julie's era. So like literally late 2000s. This was probably right before Samantha's first retirement, which I want to say was in 2013. But this doll is not worth $3,000. I can tell you that much. But yeah, I would also be able to like pretty much predict that if you send the seller a message saying, hey, this Samantha's from like 2009, she's probably worth $100. They're going to tell you to get fucked. So yeah, just know that. And you know, this doll has like 3 watchers on the listing. So, you know, dream on with $3,000. But like I said, they probably read a BuzzFeed article and think every Samantha doll is worth like $5,000. And they think they're giving you a really good deal at $3,000. And I'll see that, like, I used to see that on Facebook as people would come in and join like a vintage Facebook group and literally post pictures exactly like this and be like, I could get $5,000 for this doll, but today, because I'm feeling so generous, I'm going to offer this doll to this group specifically for $3,000. And they'll send screenshots of like signed dolls from 1986 that have sold for like $4,000. And they're like trying to pretend it's the same thing. And everybody just sends them to hell and like does the like laughing emoji for the reaction. So anyway, yeah, I don't know. It's a wild world collecting Pleasant Company. I feel like if you've gotten this far into the video, you'll probably know that already. So here we have another overpriced Samantha. Maybe we should shake it up because all I'm going to do is sit here and like be like somebody read a BuzzFeed article and then talk, you know, shit about them for like 10 minutes. But like I said, if you think this is worth $2,400, you are probably not watching YouTube videos about American Girl dolls from middle-aged men. So we have yet another doll that, is this even a white body doll? Let's have a look here. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. All right. Oh, I like that nail color. Yeah, this is probably a white body Samantha. She looks like she's seen war crimes get committed. What do we have here? It's tough to say. Now, I would venture to say that this Samantha is right around the time. This would be a late 80s Samantha if this is her original book set, and it probably is, because I can see that Meet Samantha has the number here, and there are like unnumbered versions of these books as part of this box set. So this is right as they were probably starting to number the books, which I think happened, was it in 89? I want to say it was it was after the summer and winter books were published. So like Samantha Saves the Day and Changes for Samantha. Those books had, for a very brief time, were unnumbered, and they were released in 1988. So this is likely, I would say, probably an 88, 89 set. Let's have a look. Although I see some newer looking things in here too, I think. Yeah, this is a little all over the place, but that's one thing I always tell people too, is you can kind of use context clues to figure out what date something is. So, try and look for tags on outfits that are in here. And again, you just have to learn this stuff. Again, I'm probably going to plug the Patreon 1,000 times today, just because there's so much information that I've put on there, and I'm always helping people privately. And yeah, it's my main passion in life. I love a Pleasant Company doll. I love learning all about, like, just the different versions of things that there were. So like I can tell here that this is a later birthday outfit. Like, this is a very mixed and matched collection, because I see stuff from all over the place in here. This is a much later version of the music box, a later version of Clara. This is an early 90s, most likely, Christmas dress. This is a 90s version of her birthday outfit. So if this is an original collection, I would imagine this doll was probably purchased in the very late 80s, and the child continued to get some, presents for the doll over the years. But again, to look at this, $500 would be a lot to pay for this. It's got a desk and some things in here, but really, honestly, I would say this is worth closer to $300 or $400, maybe. And you're just, you're not going to be able to get this for that when the seller is convinced it's worth $2,400, unfortunately. And that's just something we continue to see. It's very interesting that Samantha is like continually the one that is overpriced. I think it's just because she's like the most iconic American Girl doll from the entire brand, that I don't know. I think people see Samantha and they're like, oh, this is Samantha. This is the one everybody wants. And they don't really kind of put it together that Samantha is probably the single most sold American Girl doll of all time. You could maybe argue to me that, like, maybe Julie possibly. No. Samantha, like, I can't imagine there was a doll that came even close to the numbers that Samantha has done in her lifetime. So there are just hundreds of thousands of Samanthas in existence, if not millions. But just think about how many young kids got a Samantha doll, for the last 40 years. So yeah, there are hundreds of thousands of these in existence. So I don't know. A lot of this, I'm just, again, looking here, I see a lot of listings that are just so poorly represented. This is a beautiful Samantha. She's probably actually an 87. Again, I think $2,000 is a bit rich for a doll like this, but to look at her, she has really gorgeous curly eyelashes. Yeah, I would say those are pretty good eyelashes. Oh, interesting. This doll has a 1986 wig cap, which is quite interesting, I have to say, because to look at her face, this is a 1986. This is what's fun about this, is sometimes I catch listings that I haven't seen before. This actually is a 1986 Samantha. So, Tawny, whoever you are, I think you have a little bit more of a treasure on your hands than you realize. That said, you have overpriced her. This doll, I don't think is worth $2,000 because she doesn't have those really bright amber eyes, but this is, in fact, a 1986 Samantha. It is so rare that we see a Samantha doll that is labeled as being younger than she actually is. Usually everybody says they have an 86 when they have like a 92, and this is a bona fide 1986 Samantha. Very, very cool. These are interesting eyes. I would not consider these to be amber. They almost look like, they probably aren't, but they look more like the Goots the color that a lot of Goods dolls had. I don't know. I'm tempted to ask a couple of friends about this doll. There are some people that might consider these amber eyes. I don't know that I would. They don't. That's a tough call. I'm going to say not amber just based on all of the Big Tooth 86 dolls that I've seen. But this is a beautiful Samantha doll. Really nice big bangs. Yeah, kind of hilarious that this is an actual 86 doll. So very cool. This doll I think is actually probably worth about $1,000 to be honest. I mean, maybe in this market, maybe a little less, maybe, but no less than 800. Somewhere between 800 and 1,500 for this doll. Very, very interesting. So yeah, we found a surprise 1986 Samantha today. All right, I believe we've looked at this doll on Patreon before, but she's so pretty. I just want to look at her really quickly to show the rest of the audience what a gorgeous Samantha this is. I don't know the seller, so I don't have any interest in helping or hurting anybody that's selling on eBay. I probably should check the usernames to see if these are actually people I know, but this is an overpriced Samantha doll. Let me see. I can't remember what year she is, but she has the 1987 look in her face. Let's see. Yeah, she's got the 1987 hanky. This is probably a 1987 issue Samantha. Oh yeah, she's Big Tooth. That's why. So I absolutely love the Samantha doll. She has really, I don't know if you would call these almond shaped eyes, but they have sort of like more of a, like a squinty kind of look where like her lower, like the curve on the lower part of her eye socket is a lot less rounded. And it sort of just makes it look like she's squinting or a little bit happy. I think this Samantha has a beautiful look. Not everybody likes this style of Samantha, but it's one of my absolute favorites. And to me, this is like the quintessential look of a 1987 Samantha from like the first half of the year. Really, really, really beautiful. I mean, this is probably just an iPhone photo, but like she is, and again, I know she's got a bit of a lazy eye, but that can probably be fixed by just flicking her eyelashes a little bit. But I mean, that looks like a freaking album cover to me. I think this doll is so pretty, despite not very good photos. Although this is reminding me of something that is one of my biggest pet peeves with sellers is don't put all of this shit on the ground when you're trying to take pictures to sell it. I can't tell you how many listings I have been interested in, but I have purposefully not bought them because it was an item that like was in mint condition. Like it looks like they just took it out of the box, but they put it on their dirty ass carpet with dog hair and what looks like, the vomit of a 3-year-old next to it. It's like, I don't want like all of my doll stuff like pressed into like your carpet that clearly hasn't been vacuumed in 3 years. So please keep that in mind when you're taking photos of expensive things, especially, or things that are mint condition. Don't put them on the ground. There are some of, and look, to be perfectly frank, I do have actual OCD, not the fake kind where you like your house to be organized. I have the kind where, I think germs on light switches are going to kill me. So I'm just like, I don't like things cross-contaminating. So even if it's a vintage doll that I still consciously know has been played with a child and been on the ground more times than like she's not been, I get that these dolls are dirty and I obviously clean them all when I get them and everything, but there's just something about seeing a listing for $1,600. Now, to be fair, this person's floor looks fairly clean. This is not the person I'm talking about who has like matted cat hair in their carpet, but I feel like that's something that I would like to at least share, that I don't personally like when items are photographed on the ground. Put them on your countertop. I think the best thing that you can do is get a white piece of paper, like a piece of wrapping paper, just a piece of paper or something that looks clean and tidy, and put the item on top of that so that it's, it's a nice presentation and it shows respect to the item that you're selling. And I think that shows that you're taking care in the item that you're listing. Again, to me personally, it's a humongous pet peeve of mine when people take photos of things on the ground. This one is not too bad because it's just the bottom of Samantha's shoes and the floor looks pretty clean. Like this looks like a clean house, but I can't tell you some of the horrors I've seen with basically like I'm not kidding. They like it almost like I've seen stuff as bad as like someone's like cat's butthole is like on the doll's head. So like again, just be mindful when you're taking photos with somebody with obsessive compulsive disorder. Possibly not buy this because it looks like the filth of the planet is on this doll. But all of that said, I love the Samantha. I wanted to look at her. I think she is a fabulous doll. If she was priced correctly, I probably would buy her, I have to say. But for me, like I would need this doll for $500 or less. You might be able to get $750 for her if you really tried. So this seller, if they eventually come down, I think will sell this doll. She's probably one of the most beautiful on eBay right now. I love a 1987 Samantha. They have a unique beauty that none of the others have. She's just so pretty, and she has her original meat accessories too, and I think that's pretty cool. I absolutely love her. Oh, here's a gorgeous Kirsten. Let's have a look at her. Again, a lot of these are going to be overpriced just because, you know, we've listed by price high to low, and you know that usually means you're going to see the most expensive things on eBay, which are almost always the most overpriced stuff on eBay. All right, this person thinks they have a 1986. I'm going to guess it's because of this tag right here. Yeah, made in Germany. So this is after the fall of the Berlin Wall. So this is not a very now this is probably a white body Kirsten. I think this is a replacement outfit for her. I have to be honest. Let's look at her. Yeah, so I think this is probably an 87, 88 Kirsten, heavy on the 88. I'm trying to see her teeth here. Again, we're not doing like the full breakdown of how to like date them today. Oh, this is a 1988. I keep saying Samantha. We looked at so many Samanthas today. 1988 Kirsten, really gorgeous. I love her face, nice and round. You know, I love a round, pleasant company face. What appears to be no silver eye. Really gorgeous Kirsten doll. This is not her original meat outfit. This would have been made most likely in the 90s. I think we were seeing West German tags still in like, I want to say even 1991 we were seeing West Germany tags. So made in Germany is going to be closer to like 93, 94, I want to say. So this is not this doll's original dress. Sellers don't always disclose that, and they might not know. Let's see. Okay, I know this is going public. I'm trying not to be mean to people, but people really do turn on the car salesman like language when they sell stuff. So again, please just consult your friends in the community about something if you're not sure about it. It's absolutely unhinged that this person says what is unique that she has custom hair. It is not braided with the center back part like every other Kirsten doll I've ever seen. Her hair was never braided. That is actually crazy. So again, is half the time, like always read the descriptions because they usually have pertinent information in there, but also, you know, be mindful that not everybody knows what they're talking about. It is that might be the craziest thing I've seen on eBay this week is this person saying that she doesn't have braids. So because her hair isn't braided, it was never braided. Just so we're perfectly clear, every single Kirsten that has ever been sold, with the one exception, and it's a doll that I have. I actually, if you've seen one of my older videos, I do have the one of a kind Carly Cushney Kirsten that was made and like auctioned officially by American Girl in 2021. The official original one, and she was sold with her hair down. They took her braids out before they put her up for auction. So that is the one single Kirsten doll in all of existence, and Nana Boo Boo, I have her. That's the only Kirsten that's ever been sold without braids. Every other Kirsten has been sold with braids, and if anybody tries to snake oil you into saying, oh no, this is a very unique Kirsten because she was never sold with braids, that person is lying or has been misinformed. I said I wasn't going to roast sellers today, but I have to say that was like pretty crazy to see that written in a listing. So this doll, probably worth maybe $200. That's considering that she has the first version of Kirsten's necklace. I think there are a couple different versions of this necklace, and this is version number 1. I think these pictures are kind of blurry. I'm not entirely sure, actually. I can't see this as clearly as I'd like to, but either way, this doll's worth $200 max, and just keep in mind that this is not her original meat outfit. So yeah, I don't know what's up with this listing, but you know, maybe I should leave it at this before I get myself into more online drama about dolls, which surprisingly wouldn't even be my third time. All right, what else do we have here? Let's look at Molly. Let's look at the most expensive Molly on eBay right now, at least listed as white body. I don't know. I guess we're doing like the most outrageously priced American Girl dolls today. I think maybe that's what we'll call this video. We'll just look at all the expensive stuff today. Let's quickly look at this Molly, and then we'll just type American Girl and see what the most expensive American Girl dolls on eBay are. Okay, this looks like it might actually be a 1986 Molly, just to glance at her. Very, very gorgeous. I see some details that tell me right off the bat that she's super early. I want to say this is a 1986. Let's just jump to the teeth photo and spoil it. It is not a 1986. This is a 1987, and there's a chance that she's an 88, but damn, that is a gorgeous Molly. Some Mollies just, and Kirsten is the same way. They will have the most curly eyelashes you've ever seen, and they are so pretty. This doll is very, you can see, like, I guess you're seeing this in the same scale that I am, more or less. This almost looked like a 1986 Molly. This doll is stunningly gorgeous, despite being a little bit disheveled, and her glasses aren't even on straight. She's got silver eye, but through all of that, I see an extremely beautiful Molly doll. This is not to try and convince you to pay $1,100 for this doll. She's not worth that. If she was a chip tooth 1986 doll, certainly she's worth that. But that one tiny little detail that her teeth are there's a chance that this is a 1988 doll. Those teeth look awfully clean to be a 1987. But just to look at her head sculpt, I think this is probably a 1987 Molly. Let's see if we have any tags anywhere. Now, another thing I always tell people to look out for is stuff that has been mixed and matched. And I think even casual collectors of Pleasant Company would know that this book set is very mixed and matched. I haven't read the description on this. I might hop down and have a look at that in a second. But this is the style of meat book from around, I want to say, Kit's era, like Kit or Kaya. Like I associate this style with Kit and Kaya's books. Same with this Happy Birthday Molly. This is the original Molly Surprise with the original illustrations. And this is probably an early Molly Saves the Day, but certainly we have some stuff mixed in here. I would always advise you to, if you're selling stuff, do not put stuff in here just to dump it. So this always turns buyers off, myself included. I do not like buying things that have things from eras far down the line mixed into it. To me, that just makes me question what's what sometimes. Now this, I'm pretty much the expert on 1986 Molly. So, it is pretty hard to fool me these days. It can be done, but typically, I know how to spot things. This is her original locket. This would be her original beret based on the way the elastic looks. Those shoes look awfully hard. That's probably her original set of shoes. That actually might be her original factory sectioning to look at it. Like, it'd be maybe a little bit of a stretch to call these factory braids, but if you clean these up, you could pretty much make them look like factory braids. I think this is a great Molly. Might be able to argue. I don't think her bangs have been trimmed, but they look dangerously short, I have to say. But they're probably original. I couldn't say for sure. It is possible. It is so hard to know for sure if a Molly doll or any American Girl doll has had their bangs trimmed, because the bangs varied so much in the 80s, and some of them were so long that parents just cut them because you couldn't see the doll's eyes. It was an actual problem. So I couldn't tell you for sure if her bangs have been trimmed. Maybe not. This is an absolutely gorgeous Molly doll, though. Again, probably worth, I bet you could get $500 out of somebody for this. In the height of my craziness, I probably would have paid $500 for this. $1,100 is too much. If she had chipped teeth, certainly $1,100 would be a great price for her. But I'm going to read the description really quick. Hang on. Okay, nothing really that interesting in the description. They have noted that the books are newer, so that is good. I would have, if that seller was coming to me looking for advice on their listing, the first thing I would tell them is to take the books out, basically. If she wanted to include the Molly Surprise and Molly Saves the Day, fine. But I just would leave the books out, honestly. They're not in great shape. And, again, newer books can make people call into question what else has been added from a newer era. But she did mention or I should say I don't know who this seller is, but they did mention in the listing, they talked about Molly's glasses, and I can't remember if I mentioned this or not already, but this is the first version of Molly's glasses that don't have lenses, and they're basically just nickel coated wires. And that is one thing you have to be careful of. They will stain Molly's face if they're exposed to too much humidity over the years. I have one Molly that this actually happened to, that she was stored with her glasses on, and she has a green mark on her face, very much like green ear that Barbies get. It's the same exact thing. These are unlacquered nickel, so they will tarnish and have a chemical reaction with the doll's vinyl. So if you live in a humid climate, definitely be careful about if you have this version of Molly's glasses. They will stain if they start to tarnish while they're on the doll. But yeah, these are Molly's original glasses. These were sold in 1986 all the way through early 1988. There's so much stuff like knocking around in my brain from Pleasant Company history. It takes a little bit to dig some of it out sometimes, but I want to say that these glasses were getting sold in early 1988 as well. And then they switched to glasses that had a different like body style, and they added little plastic lenses in them in 1988. So yeah, all of this looks to be original to my eye. Again, it's just the books that, they're probably not part of this doll's original collection. All right, let's hop back and let's just type in American Girl. Let's see what is like. I really want to see, because I put white body in. A lot of times people don't know what what like a white body actually is, so they won't necessarily put it in the title. So let's just put like I feel like if I put American Girl, I might get some weird listings. Let's just do American Girl doll and see what this brings up. What in fresh hell is this? Our Generation kitchen playset. $22,000. Are we money laundering here? What the actual fuck? 3 people are watching this. I swear, if you're one of those 3 people, back away slowly. Like, literally, what is this? Our Generation kitchen playset. What? I gotta read the description. Girl, they didn't even pretend that this was like some rare thing. Like, the listing would look like basically like it was AI generated. Did they mean to sell this for $22.22? Like, this is, I don't know what the hell's going on. Like, seriously, like, what in money laundering hell is this? No thanks. Oh yeah, this is another annoying thing. If you're looking for actual like Pleasant Company and American Girl, you're going to get like American Girl Barbie stuff mixed in, which is super annoying. But let's see. We've looked at this on Patreon before, a $15,000 listing. So I guess go back to an older video if you really want to hear my full thoughts and opinions on this. But yeah, let's just say I would maybe not spend that much money on that collection. What else we have here? A $10,000 listing. Again, you want $10,000 and this is the best picture you have. Basically, she looks like she's at the morgue sitting on somebody's bed. Y'all gotta try harder than this, I swear. Does eBay not have a function in where you can rotate the images? This is so insane. This is so insane. Yeah, we've talked about this listing before on Patreon as well. Handmade pajamas, gorgeous Addie. Again, this is all stuff from like, I think this is all like 90s stuff. Just to quickly look at it, this listing's probably worth what, a few $100. Anyway, yeah, absolute craziness. All right, I don't know what else there's going to be to look at today. Like I said, I don't want to like talk about too many of the listings that we've already talked about in previous episodes, and I am starting to lose my voice. So, oh, here's a Signed Felicity. That's interesting. Signed Felicities are super rare. I don't know how many there were. Some people say there were like no more than, like, they'll say she did 500. I swear there are fewer than 500 Signed Felicities. They're really, really hard to find, which is why people charge so much money for them. And people typically will pay more for a signed Felicity or a signed Addie than they would even like a 1986 first edition signed doll. It's just because there are fewer of them, so people charge more for them. So definitely a signed Felicity is super rare. All right, I'm seeing a lot of Barbie stuff in here, and I have Barbie fatigue. I have to say, I kind of dove really deep into that world, like not long, super long before the Barbie movie, but the Barbie movie came out and then it just kind of spoiled the whole thing. And I haven't like really looked at Barbie since. So yeah, I cannot be bothered scrolling through like 5,000 Barbie listings to look at a bunch of overpriced American Girl dolls. But I hope you had fun today looking at all of this stuff, especially if you are watching this as a preview and you haven't joined the Patreon yet. This is something I try and do every single month. There is so much educational value, and hopefully basically some entertainment value as well, just cruising through eBay listings. But I go like even more deep in a lot of the earlier Patreon videos. Again, just talking about eye shape, eye color, wig caps, neck strings, neck stamps, all of those things that make all of the different versions of the earliest Pleasant Company dolls so unique and specific, and what makes one doll worth $150 and another doll worth $3,000. And even if you don't ever intend to pay $3,000 for a doll, who knows, you might find one with those characteristics listed for only $100, and you can get a really great doll for your collection, or, you know, flip it, make a few bucks and buy something else you really, really want. So be sure to check me out on Patreon if you're not here already. We have a really good time there. I definitely make a lot looser content over here because, you know, I don't have to worry so much about what the YouTube algorithm is going to do with my videos. So there's lots of cussing and a little bit of trash talk. It's, you know, it's just fun to kind of cut up once in a while. So that's kind of what we do over there. So I'd love for you to check it out there. It has been the only thing that has kept my channel afloat this year, because I've been running into issues with YouTube's algorithm, like basically demonetizing my channel, like part of my channel this year. And I'm also working on really awesome, well-produced content for the channel. I know that I haven't been posting as frequently, but it's because I'm working that much harder on my videos, trying to make sure that the production value is good and that I'm making videos that people want to sit down and spend time with and get lost in for 30 minutes to an hour. And I want to make really good content that people enjoy, and I want to make content that I'm proud of. And it's taking a lot of time and resources for me to like learn new methods and do things. So yeah, I've been spending a lot of time behind the scenes, and that's why you haven't seen me as much on YouTube this year, is because I'm working on basically really awesome shit that I'm so excited to share. That being said, if you do miss me, I am on Patreon pretty much on average about 3 times a month. So I try and do every week, but every once in a while, you know, I get a migraine or things just get a little bit fucked up for a while. So on average, I'm doing about 3 videos a month on Patreon. So if you want more American Girl content, I'm over there. It's so cheap, it's basically free. And like I said, it has helped me like buy groceries and do things so that I can put time into my YouTube channel and make content about dolls on the internet, because it's so niche, it's like basically impossible to make money. So I really do rely on the generous support of my friends on Patreon, and you are my favorite people in the entire world, because none of this would exist without you. And with that, I say thank you so, so much. And until I see you again, be sure to take care of yourselves and take care of your dolls. And I know the world is scary right now, but wherever you can, try and just let loose and have some fun. It is so healing to just be able to take an hour some days and just say, fuck it, I don't care what's going on in the world right now. I want to put a really pretty outfit on Samantha, and I may or may not try and list her on eBay for $15,000. All right, see you next time. Bye.